On January 6, 2021, after the last presidential election, right-wing protesters stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. In the run-up to this year's election, we've already seen 2 assassination attempts against one of the candidates, as well as attacks against ballot boxes in 2 states. Many now fear that even greater violence will follow Election Day, regardless of who wins. But how bad could the violence get? And could it even reach a tipping point where the US descends into civil war? According to a recent poll, around a quarter of Americans now fear civil war is a real possibility following the election. Most commentators believe there's no possibility of a full-scale war with 2 opposing conventional armies in the immediate future, but there are more well-founded fears that the US might suffer a long period of serious unrest and sectarian violence. While armed right-wing militias, such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, have been less visible since many of their leaders and members were prosecuted following the January 6th Capitol attack, it has been reported that they have been quietly preparing themselves for potential violence following the new election. Some experts on extremism believe the US now meets all the criteria necessary for the emergence of major civil unrest and political violence. They point to a recent history of contested elections, deeply entrenched political divisions, weakened democratic institutions, and widespread access to firearms as some of the leading risk factors. Even Democrats appear to be buying more firearms, with a 2023 survey finding 41% of Democrats now live in a household with a gun, up from 33% in 2019. But others caution against making comparisons to other nations that have experienced political violence, claiming that strong government institutions and economic stability in a mature democracy like the US would prevent it from sliding into open civil conflict. Nevertheless, there are several potential scenarios following the election that might make serious violence more likely. Firstly, Donald Trump could claim victory before the election result is even known, even if he eventually loses. Some Republicans already appear to be laying the foundation for this strategy, falsely claiming that the only way Trump could lose is if the Democrats cheat. Secondly, the election could be very close, with the final result taking days or weeks to determine, and violence could erupt in this political vacuum. Finally, there could be some kind of major event or attack, such as another assassination attempt, or an act of terrorism that becomes a flashpoint for more widespread violence. As such, a swift landslide victory for one of the candidates, followed by a period of relative stability, is likely to be the best chance of avoiding violence. But with polls suggesting the 2 candidates are neck and neck, there's a fair chance this won't happen. Whatever happens in the coming days, if the heightened security measures in Washington, D.C. and many other places across the US are any indication, the threat of political violence is something public officials are taking very seriously.